But this guy couldn't believe that he could talk for literally hours straight and not get that I was like shutting down, checking out, triggered beyond belief, pissed off, wanting to punch him in the face. Hi, what's going on? My name's Jayson Gaddis. Welcome back to the Smart Couple Podcast, episode 75. Wow. 3/4 of the way to 100 episodes. Yikes. That's pretty exciting. I'm grateful to have your ears. If you're new or returning as a listener, either way, welcome. Welcome back. And this is going to be a good one. I can feel it. What the hell do we do here at the Smart Couple Podcast? Well, we interview relationship teachers, students, couples, and my wife and I talk about how to have a great relationship. Okay. And okay, it sounds simple, but here's the program. I underline this point every episode, I think, which is that relationship is hard. It's challenging. Imagine living with one person most of your life, or for 20 years, 30 years. That gets very challenging because the person triggers parts of you you'd rather not the rest of the world see. You behave in ways that are embarrassing and childish. The mind chatter that goes on when you're judging your partner is sometimes impossible to understand. And at the same time, you're convinced that you're right and your way is better than your partner, right? All of this kind of shit goes on in a long-term relationship. And if you're not halfway awake to it, it can destroy your relationship over time. If you believe and get fused to your story about your partner and even your story about yourself and how you can't do it or you're such a piece of shit or whatever your story is about you or them, your relationship is going to tank. Okay. So here at the Smart Couple Podcast, my job is to teach you tools, practical tools that work to give you an edge in your relationship, not as a way to win over your partner, but as a way to have you both win, right? The only kind of relationship I ever want to be in is win-win. Now, that doesn't mean it's win-lose sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it feels like win-lose. My wife wins, I lose. Sometimes it feels that way. And that's fuel for me to get to win-win. All right, honey, I feel like I'm losing over here. Let's try to do this again. And our job is to help each other reach win-win. And one of the tools we use is negotiation. We communicate, and we're excellent communicators. So, it doesn't take us that long. Okay, so I'm going to share with you lots and lots of tools, tricks, tips, techniques, and just straightforward ideas that you can try in your own relationship. Okay. Now, here at the Smart Couple, once in a while, we do a little contest. I want to announce our winner. Gosha Meyer won the podcast contest to get a 30-minute coaching session with me. And she's already on the calendar, and we are going to get after it. And my job is in 30 minutes to rock her world and help her relationship life, right? It can be about her friendship, her boss, or her intimate partner, okay? So thanks, Gosha. Gosha is also a regular listener and a member of the Smart Couple private Facebook community, which you can also join. Just go to jasongaddis.com/smartcouplegroup and you'll get, you can ask to join that community, okay? Once in a while, we do contests for you, the listener. So thank you, Gosha. And also thanks for everybody else who played and left a review, joined the community. I really appreciate you and you putting yourself out there. So thanks again. Now, I have more exciting news coming up, so I will announce that at the end of this podcast. And stay tuned for that announcement. And as always, listen for your action step at the very end. All right, in this episode, we're going to get into dealing with a partner who talks too much. Now, I get that that's a judgment, it's a little blamey, and let me unpack that for a moment before we start. So, all of us know one person in our lives who talks a lot. They're a talker, and it might be us, or it might be our partner, a parent, a friend, a coworker. Someone is just a talker. And I'm going to tell you a story in this episode of someone I met who talked to me to the point of me almost going bonkers and mad because I didn't have the tools at the time. So I'm going to tell you what I did back then with no tools, and how long it took me to kind of deal with the situation. But I'm going to talk about it. This is as a very common, normal dynamic in a partnership or a friendship. Okay, this often shows up in a friendship, and sometimes it shows up in a partnership. But it feels so worthwhile to talk about. I teach this in a lot of my courses, and I thought I'd mention it here. Okay, so we're going to get into what to do with someone in your life who, for whatever reason, you're judging them as talking a lot, and you're not sure what to do. You space out, you check out, you judge them, you shut down, you feel like your voice doesn't matter, you don't get a say, you don't get to share your perspective, and you feel a little maybe dominated or controlled by this person. We're going to get into that. Now, if you're the talker, this is also going to help you a lot because unbeknownst to you, no one in your life has ever told you, hey, you're talking a lot and I don't feel like I've got any space over here. People probably have been nice to you and they've colluded with your habit and your pattern that's probably semi-unconscious to you, and you need help too, okay? So that's what we're going to get into. I really think you're going to enjoy this one, and stay tuned to the end for your action step. All right, I want to zero in on people that talk too much, and I'm not saying that as a way to blame you, okay? If you're a talker or your partner is a talker, I just want to point out what's true, that sometimes some people talk a lot, and they can talk in a monologue for quite a while, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes. And this is just like in your home and they're talking to their partner. And what ends up happening in this dynamic is the silent partner falls into a little bit of a trance, what my friend Decker calls captive audience. You become captive as they're like held captive or hostage as their audience. And it's no one's, like, again, we're not looking to blame anybody here. We're challenging you to be more responsible. So if you find yourself being held captive as their audience and they are just talking a lot, I'm guessing you can't comprehend all that they're saying, right? I'm guessing you get lost. I'm guessing you as the listener check out. I'm guessing that you get frustrated. I'm guessing that you are twiddling your thumbs until you can get your perspective in. Or perhaps you just shut down while they talk at you. You know what I'm talking about, right? This dynamic. So this dynamic can happen in a partnership, or it can happen with a stranger at a store or out in public somewhere at a park, where you just bump into someone, or you're on a plane and someone just wants to tell you their story, or they feel like for whatever reason you're a safe person to open up to, and they just talk and talk and talk. Or you can go home for the holidays and you have a parent or a sibling that kind of rambles at the dinner table and sort of takes command of the conversation, and 2 hours goes by and you still haven't said a word. This type of dynamic is common. And so I'm going to talk about it in the form of a partnership, in the context of like an intimate partnership, like a relationship, okay? And know that this can be applied to anyone. The guy on the street, the girl at the gym, the person on the plane, this can also be done there. But we'll stick to The context being, okay, you're with a partner who talks a lot. What do you do? Well, I want to challenge you on a number of fronts, okay? So let me ask you the question, whose responsibility do you think it is to understand what the talker's trying to communicate? Whose responsibility is that? Is it the talker's responsibility, or is it you, the listener's responsibility? Well, in this moment, I'm going to assert that it's your responsibility, because the talker can do the best job possible of trying to tell you how they're feeling or what they're up to or what they want to communicate with you, and you still may not get it, no matter how skillful they're talking to you. So it's not really about the talker, okay? I'm going to challenge you, the listener, that it's your responsibility and yours alone to do something about this dynamic, all right? And you'll understand more why in a minute. So what's happening here is you, for whatever reason, let's say you're more introverted, you have a harder time speaking up, you don't know how to set boundaries, you learned in school to just be polite when someone's talking to you. Maybe you're with a partner who said, don't interrupt me. You had one negative experience, and so you learned, I better not interrupt them or they get mad, and I don't want to make them more mad. So I just better let them share their side of the story, right? And this can happen often in an argument, but it can also happen when someone is just coming home from work and they just want to download their day. So if you find yourself, for whatever reason, going into captive audience where you're just passively listening and nodding your head and saying, and being polite and being nice by not interrupting them, you are dropping the ball. Okay? It's your responsibility to understand what they're trying to tell you. And here's my favorite way to understand them is you need to interrupt them. That's right. Interrupt the talker. At the risk of pissing them off, upsetting them, shutting them down, or whatever. Who cares? Okay, you don't need help listening quietly. That's not your edge. Okay, you're an expert in listening quietly and not saying anything. So don't do that anymore. So you need help being more of an active listener, right? This is what I call active listening. Active listening requires interruption. So if you and I are in a relationship and you're talking and I interrupt you, the whole point of me interrupting you is not to be rude. I'm not trying to be a dick. I am interrupting you so that I can understand you. That's it. It's the only reason I'm interrupting you. I want to understand. And you're going on, and I can't quite follow you, so I'm going to interrupt you. All right? So this is your responsibility as the listener to interrupt. You've trained this person, if you're in a partnership, especially if this is not a stranger and this is someone you know quite well, like a friend or lover, you've trained this person that you fall passive and quiet when they talk. And that you've trained them to be okay with your way, and so you've trained them to just run their story with you and just keep going and keep talking. So that's on you again. So notice how we're not pointing the finger at the talker. The talker actually needs your help. All right, the talker has gotten used to, for whatever reason, talking at people, and most of the time when this type of dynamic is going on, they've lost connection with you. They've lost relationship. And they've lost the thread of your connection, like that there's actually a synergy here, that there's like almost a figure eight loop of energy. I talk and you listen, and then you talk and I listen, and there's this nice exchange going on. And it doesn't mean I have to share about my day and you have to share about your day. And, we're not talking about like some rote conversation. In a dynamic, organic, mutually nourishing conversation, both people are active and both people are present. What tends to happen with the talker is the talker starts dissociating and doesn't know that you're checking out as the listener. They don't know. Because again, no one's told them. Hey, you're losing me. I'm lost here. Whoa, you've been talking for like 15 minutes. I'm starting to not follow you anymore. Or, hey, I'm checking out. I don't even know where you are, what you're talking about now. But I feel lectured to, or I just feel like you just need an audience and I'm just supposed to sit here quietly in the bleachers and listen to you, right? No one's ever done that to them, so they don't know. They're running an unconscious habit and pattern of talking this way of communicating, which I would say is called talking at people. It's not talking with you. It's not real communication, okay? The way I teach it, certainly. So it's your responsibility then to train them a new way of doing connection, because I guarantee you, if you do this well, both of you are going to be grateful that you tried this and you fumbled your way through it. And eventually it's going to get you to a new place that's mutually connective and nourishing, where both people feel energized and engaged in the conversation, rather than a role where someone's talking at you and you just kind of go quiet. Okay, so here's how to do it. I'm going to give you some examples. There's two ways to do this, and this has to do with boundary setting, as we talked about in episode 40 and 41 on boundaries. Go back and review those if you need help with boundaries, but this is a basic boundary, and you can use a timeout, you can say, hold on, you can say, will you please stop for just a sec, and you can do it in a calm voice, okay? And this is in the moment when it's happening. Later on, the other way you want to frame this is ahead of time. So you and your partner or friend, you set context ahead of time, and I'll go over that in a minute. But initially, I just want to do the interruption type boundary, okay? Sometimes I call this the insta boundary. And it's just saying, hey, hang on, whoa, time out. I'm getting lost here. Wait, I really want to understand what you're saying. Will you slow down, or for me, or will you please repeat what you were just saying because I checked out? I went somewhere else. So with this type of boundary, you don't even need to tell the person that you're like judging them as talking too much. You don't need to say that, because that may not be going on for you. Again, you want to lead with your intention, which is a good intention, which is just, hey, I want to understand you. And you've been talking for a while now, and it's hard for me to follow all of the details without like calling a timeout here and saying, let me play catch up and let me make sure I've got you so far. All right, so you want to, that's the whole point of the boundary is timeout. Let me see if I follow you so far. Wait a second. I want to make sure I'm following you. I want to make sure I'm listening. Did I get this right? I want to see if I can encapsulate the first half of what you were saying and kind of summarize it in my words, because that helps me understand you. Can I do that real quick? And they'll say, sure. Most people, when you tell them, hey, my intention is I want to understand you because currently I'm getting lost here and I'm not understanding you. Most people are going to say, okay, yeah, thanks. They're going to appreciate the fact that your genuine desire is to understand them more. Okay, so you want to make that very clear when you set your boundary. Hang on, I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to follow, and I'm having a hard time. Will you, and then you can say, will you repeat this? Or can I summarize what I've got so far about what you're telling me? And then you summarize. And if this is in the heat of a moment with your partner, again, any attempts at you of understanding their experience rather than waiting your turn to share your experience is going to go well, okay? If you have an intention to understand them, they're going to appreciate you. Okay. Now, so that's an example of just how to interrupt someone in the moment. Now, later on, sometimes this is going to trigger a partner, by the way. They're going to shut down, they're going to get angry, they're going to say, stop interrupting me. You always interrupt me. And you may never, because you're the quiet one, but they're bringing in their family history. Maybe they grew up in a family where anytime at the dinner table they tried to get a word in edgewise, their dad or mom or sibling would just talk over them and interrupt them, and they felt like, really triggered by that. So it could be that this upsets your partner initially. No problem. Don't worry about that. Validate their feelings. Hey, it makes sense. You're upset with me for interrupting you because I never interrupt you, and I've trained you to not, to just kind of, this is how I listen, is I just sit here quietly. But guess what? That doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm learning a new way of listening, and it's called active listening. And I'm going to be interrupting you from here on out, not to be rude, not to be mean, not to judge, but to listen, to like try to understand, because I really care about understanding you. Right? So let them know your intention. So later on, you have this type of conversation, and you just say what I said, like, look, honey, for years, I've listened a certain way with you, and I want to practice a new way, which to me is going to have me be more present and you feel more understood. How would you like that? If I was more engaged as a listener and you felt even more understood, right? Get their buy-in. They're going to say hell yes to that. So you say, okay, then is it okay that I interrupt you? Because that's what it's going to take for me. I need to interrupt you so that I can understand you. That's the whole point of me interrupting you. And because I want to stay present. When you talk for more than 5 minutes and you deliver all this, content about what just happened or what happened with your day, it's hard for me to track all of that. And I want to I can only digest little bits, and I need you to slow down for me. So I want to interrupt. Now, in an ideal situation, your partner gets buy-in and they're like, sounds great, let's try it. And you start to learn a new way to talk and listen to each other. And sometimes the talker now starts to have awareness like, oh, right, I'm talking a lot, aren't I? You're not following me. Okay, so will you feed back to me what you've gotten so far about what I'm saying to you? So ideally, this is the direction it moves, is the talker starts catching him or herself. And they start to notice that their way of being has an impact on you. Like if they just want to talk for 30 minutes, they're going to start to be a little more aware that your eyes are glazed over and you're nodding your head and you're looking right at them, but you're not really there. Then they're going to go, oh, am I kind of rambling? Okay, let me try to get to the point here. So this works wonders, okay? How to deal with a talkative partner. And the talkative partner, if this is you listening, I have a challenge for you, which is you need to start understanding that your way of talking has an impact on people. All right? Quick story. I worked for Outward Bound years ago and helped start the Outward Bound school in Mexico. And I met my co-instructor who I was going to live with in Mexico abroad for 2 months. I met him in his truck when he picked me up from the airport in San Antonio, Texas. And we together drove down in his truck all the way to Monterrey, Mexico. And that's a many-hour drive. And then I went on backpacking trips with this guy. So it was like me and this guy, right? And guess what? He was a talker. All he did was talk. And I just got angrier and more resentful. And I didn't have the skills at that time to speak up. So all I did was nod my head and silently judge and wait for him to ask about me. And then I resented him, right? But this guy couldn't believe that he could talk for literally hours straight and not get that I was like shutting down, checking out, triggered beyond belief, pissed off, wanting to punch him in the face. I can't believe that he had no connection, no ability to get that he was impacting me like this, right? And how would he? Because he was like in a trance. And I wasn't willing or able to speak up for myself at that time. I just didn't have the skills. So I just let him run on, and then I wanted to punch him. But that's my responsibility, okay? I eventually, by the way, kind of, to give myself a little credit here, by the way, after like living with him for like a month, it took me about a month, living with him and being in the woods for a month or so, leading these trips, I finally was able to say, hey man, you know what? Has anyone ever told you talk a lot? And you know what his first thing he said was, yeah, I get that all the time. Okay, well, you're not getting that you have an impact on me, dude, and other people. But he said, yeah, I get that all the time. And I was like, wow, okay, well, I feel like, I can't remember how I said it, but I said something. I was trying to advocate for myself, right? I was like, hey, I'm a person over here and I have feelings too, and I have a story also, and it'd be cool if you asked about me and my life. And, I did it in my own way, and it did improve, right? I would speak to him even more differently now, and I would make it even more nourishing for myself now. But back then, I finally made a step. I was that pissed off and annoyed that I finally took action. So I'm challenging you to do the same. So don't let yourself get sucked into captive audience, all right? Be an advocate for yourself. Okay, so you understand the basic premise here. And so set context ahead of time, right? We talked about that. Let your partner know, hey, I'm going to be interrupting you. Is that okay? Get their buy-in, get their consent, yeah? And then in the moment, do it with the people in your life that you feel like are talking too much to the point where you're getting annoyed or you're checking out or getting lost, right? And it's all coming from your heart to say, no, I want to understand this person. If you don't want to understand them and you just want to sit there passively, go for it, but don't be blaming them for that, right? That's on you. Cool. Hope this was helpful, and listen up for your action step. Okay, you guessed it. You have an action step here, and it's very straightforward. There's two options you have. One is if you are friends or partnered with someone who talks too much in your judgment, and you can relate big time to this episode, your job is to set context with them and say, hey, heads up, I've noticed a dynamic in our relationship, and I just sit quietly, passively listening to you, and I'm often checking out, and I've never said anything because I've been scared. And I'd like to assert myself, and is it okay if I interrupt you? Are you cool with that? Because that would help me listen intently. It would help me understand you more, and my guess is you would feel more understood in a way that you haven't before. Are you up for me doing that? Okay, so that's action step option number one. And then option number two is do it in the moment. Just interrupt a person as a practice, okay? With no warnings, no heads up. Next time you are on a plane with someone who's talking your ear off, or in your bedroom with your partner, or at work and someone is just talk, just be like, hey, whoa, time out. Hey, whoa, I really want to understand you and I'm lost right now. Can you slow down for me? Would you be willing to do that? Or can I just feed back to you what I've gotten so far about everything you're saying? That helps me listen. And I'm guessing it's going to help you feel understood. You cool with that? Okay. Option one, set context ahead of time. Option two, interrupt in the moment. Okay. Go do that. Go do either one of those. Right. Because again, I'm pretty sure you have someone you know in your life here that you can relate to with this. This is just relatable. Right. Okay. And have fun with it. Remember, we can't learn relationship if we're not a little messy, sloppy, falling down, failing, fucking it up, and making mistakes. So just plan on that. It's not going to go perfectly the first time, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't try. So put yourself out there. Make it happen. All right. Now, at some point, I need to teach a class on boundaries because this is right in line with boundaries. And in lieu of that, you can listen to my taught classes on boundaries in our private relationship school, Roots Community. We've closed the registration for that at this point, and you are welcome to apply. And you can just go to jasongaddis.com/roots to apply to become a member of that private community, okay? And that's $47 a month, and that gets you people like you who want to learn this stuff and want to have practice partner calls and want to do group coaching every other week with me privately, personally, about your exact situation. And we can practice things like captive audience and setting boundaries and how do we do that? And you get coaching directly from me, okay? And it's fun, and that community is awesome. So I encourage you to apply if you feel called, all right? Finally, an exciting announcement about the Smart Couple book that I'm chipping away at. It's really a bunch of amazing quotes from the podcast and so on from my work. And I think it's going to really serve you. It's the kind of book that you could open to page 50 and in the morning after you've had a fight and just get a little inspiration to work through your day rather than reading a big how-to. And that book's coming one day also. But in the meantime, I'm just psyched to get the Smart Couple sort of guidebook or quotable book out there. And should be ready around the holidays. And I will also be doing a free web class, a free live Facebook web class on how to deal with the drama of the holidays with your family, all the family shit that comes up. So keep an ear out for that. The best way to find out about that is to become a fan of Jayson Gaddis. And you just go to facebook.com/Jayson Gaddis fan page. And that's where I'll be hosting the public event on the holidays, okay? So that's coming up sometime in November. And because in the US we have Thanksgiving, and then we have, for those of us that celebrate Hanukkah or Christmas or the solstice or the new year, there's a lot of family stuff that gets really burly and gnarly and intense. And you turn into a teenager or a 5-year-old and you just go along with the Joneses rather than being true to yourself. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with that. And the Smart Couple book can also probably help you during the holidays. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to need and want your feedback on the book, because I'm not going to publish it initially. I'm going to just put it out there as a PDF, and then I'm going to get feedback from people and see how it is. And if people are like, dude, this is awesome, then great. Let's self-publish that thing or find someone to publish that, and let's rock it out. Okay. One more heads up, we have some really cool guests coming up in the next few weeks. Couples, we've got Jeff Brown, hopefully, if that interview works out, as well as the female orgasm. Should be interesting. Okay. And thank you for being the kind of person that is willing to do something about your relationship life.